The next thing I want to show you is how to reference a case and how to reference legislation. Before that though, you'll notice that on this version of the document there is no ruler. And that's a problem because without a ruler I can't easily align my footnotes and they'll end up looking messy. So in order to make my ruler visible, I need to have my cursor here. So in the text, if my cursor is here and I go to view, you'll see that the ruler button appears, but I can't click on it. However, if I go here and my cursor is in the text and I go to view, I can click on the ruler. And just like that, the ruler appears. And I can use it as a functional thing to help me make sure my document is properly formatted. So I'm going to first refer to an unreported case and show you how to reference an unreported case. So the case that you've been asked to read for Tembeka's lecture next week is the case concerning the Democratic Alliance and the President, as well as the economic freedom fighters and the state attorney and the President, as well as a number of other respondents. And I'm going to make some comments about the case, and then I'm going to show you how we reference or provide authority for those comments. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say the High Court recently set aside a decision of the state to pay for former President Jacob Zuma's legal fees in various criminal proceedings against him. Now you'll see that just from reading this, it's not possible to know what the authority for my statement is. So where do I get this information from? So what I need to do then is insert the full details where I get this information from in a footnote. If I have a very tight word limit, it's wise to use footnotes to add information about sources as opposed to laboring the text itself with that information. So I'm simply going to again go to this bar, which might say references depending on the type of computer you have. I'm going to insert a footnote. I'm going to again press the tab key, and then I'm going to get the reference for the case from Safley. Now this case isn't yet reported. So what we have to do is get the details from Safley. So I've cut those details or copied rather those details, and now I'm pasting them. And look what happens. It comes out in a very funny format. So what do I do to fix that format? I choose from the paste options, this clipboard, keep text only, and then I only have the text and none of the other funny stuff. Now the information I have here is quite a lot, and I don't need to include all of this information in order for someone to find this source. In particular, I don't need the case number. That's the case number that the court allocated to this case when the applications were launched by the DA and the economic freedom fighters respectively. So I can delete that information. What I do need is a year, the details of the court, and the number that the court has used, the case number that the court has used to refer to this case. So this will be like the 836 number that the Gauteng division has heard this year. And so I will keep that information as well as the date. And I will put a full stop. Now, in order to show the case name, I am going to italicize it. So now you can see the name of the case in italics. And why is that important? Well, if I was to refer to the Democratic Alliance as a party to the case, I wouldn't refer to them in italics. But if I refer to them as part of the case name, I do. And so using italics indicates that I'm referring to the case name as opposed to the Democratic Alliance itself. Now, once again, you'll see that because I haven't set the formatting for this document, the font here is not Arial. It's not the prescribed font. So I'm going to highlight the footnote and I'm going to select the correct font. And once again, I want my font size to be font 10. Now this is the information over here that I use when a case is not reported, such as the case, the EFF case that we're speaking about in class. A different format is used if I refer to a reported case. And I'll show you what format that is in a moment. The final thing we must always do before we move on is ensure that we have aligned our footnote content to all the other footnotes so that it looks nice and neat. You'll note once again that I inserted a full stop at the end of the footnote. Now, I'm going to speak a little bit more about this case to show you some more information. One of the issues that the court had to decide was whether the Democratic Alliance, one of the applicants, had launched its application out of time. Okay, so now we're just referring to an issue in the case. We don't need to put a reference here. The court decided this issue with reference to another case, and I'm going to put the details of that case into the text. That case was the Tassima case. So I'm referring to that case in text, which means I'm going to add, I'm going to add the name of the case, but not its citation, into the text. And once again, the formatting has not matched what I'm using, so I'm just going to keep the text only. Now, so I'm saying the court decided this issue, whether the DA had unduly delayed in launching its application, with reference to another case, the Tassima case. Now, because I am referring to a case here, I'm once again going to italicize the case name. And I do that by pressing Control I, or on a Mac, Command I. And then I go back to not italics by again pressing Control I, and I insert a footnote to give further details of this case. So I insert a footnote, and in the footnote, I need to refer to two sources. I need to refer to the DA case, and I need to refer to the full details of the Tassima case. So there's a simple way for me to do this instead of writing out the full details of the DA case again. I can give the DA case an abbreviated name. So I can say hereafter EFF, let's call it the EFF case. And that means in this footnote, where I refer to both the Tassima case and the EFF case, I can simply say EFF, or rather the EFF case, and I'll refer to the paragraph where the Tassima case was invoked, which is paragraph 55. And then the full details of the Tassima case in the next sentence, which are as follows. Again, I'm going to just keep the text. So I then need to fix some of this formatting. So I've got the full details of the case. I have a citation for it from the law reports. And I have where in the EFF case that this Tassima case was mentioned. So now my footnote is very helpful to somebody else reading my work. I now simply have to fix up the formatting for this footnote by correcting the font and making it font 10, and by aligning it nicely, which we now know how to do by using this hanging indent button. So that is how we refer to both reported, this is a reported case in a law report, the Tassima case, and unreported cases such as the EFF case. And the next thing I want to show is how to refer to legislation. So I'm going to continue mentioning the EFF case, but I'm also going to discuss how the court used the Promotion of Administrative Justice Act in that case. So I'm going to say the court also relied upon section 7(2) or rather section 9 of the Promotion of Administrative Justice Act 3 of 2000, and then I'm going to give it an abbreviated name, which I'm then going to use going forward. Okay, now once again we can see that I have got the details of the source, the legislation, in the text itself, and there's nothing that I can add by inserting a footnote, so I don't insert a footnote in this situation. The full details of the source I'm relying on are in the text, and nothing would be added by using a footnote here. But if I wanted to say Paja allows for a review, let's say a delay in launching a review application, to be condoned where this is in the interests of justice. Now you can see I've mentioned Paja, but the reader doesn't know where in Paja this power to condone a delay is provided for. So now I do need to insert a footnote. So I'm going to, again, use my insert footnote button. I'm going to, again, after inserting, press the tab key, and I'm going to say section 9 of Paja, full stop, and then just fix my formatting. And the font size. And fix the indent. And that is how you reference legislation. So in other words, if the legislation is referred to in full in the text and abbreviated, thereafter, if you want to mention the legislation, it's appropriate to use the abbreviation that you've given the legislation. And if you don't give all the information that you're referring to in a sentence, such as here, to add that additional information in a footnote. There is, by the way, a better way than what I've been doing to format a document, and that is by setting the style. So under style, you can create a new style, for example, for a footnote reference or footnote text. So if I want my footnote style to be different, then I will use, this is for the reference itself, I will use Arial 12, then I'll apply that, and going forward I can fix the formatting in that way, and I can set that as the default. I can also create a style for footnote text, and so for footnote text I can go modify, and I can go Arial and 10 and also justified, and that will, I can add it, and I can add it to my quick style list, and that will update my template. So right now I've just changed the style to a footnote style, which I didn't want to do, but never mind. The point is, going forward, my footnotes should automatically use the style I've added, or ultimately at the end, when I've done all my writing, I can highlight it and use the relevant style that I've added here. So there are ways to do things slightly more efficiently. Those are perhaps next level things that you can learn about Word, but I hope for now this has helped you understand how to insert a few of the different kinds of footnotes that, or references at least, that you need to be able to insert for your assignment.